Sort of. Come on in. I did not have a live show this morning because of a live show that was pre scheduled for tonight, an 8 p.m. show. I spent the morning working on various things like making People magazine. What? Worked on that this morning. Nailed it. What's up, Jen? Come on in. Do you want to see a picture? I really, really think you do. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I'm going to be framing this one. It's me right there. It's backwards, but you can see me. Yes, yes, yes. Nailed it. Anytime I actually nail something, I always say, nailed it. What's up, Carol? Come on in. Hey. Doodles, how are you? Mama Jones, thank you. What's up, Lisa? I need to clean my glasses, which I always forget to do. I should always do that before I hit the go live button, but I always forget. My cat opened my door, so you'll probably hear the TV, the living room TV. Sadie, go close the door. Hold on, I gotta go turn my TV down. You ever wonder why you're walking from room to room and you either don't remember what you were going to do when you went in there, or you have random thoughts that don't make sense all the time? Thank you, Mackenzie. I just went to turn my TV down and thought, I forgot dishwasher tablets. Random thought. Not thinking about dishes. Nothing, just, yes, their bonds got lowered all right. Exactly, Katie. Exactly. Or you don't remember what you come into the room for in the first place. You're like, what did I come in here for? Hey, Jamie. Well, I had to get caught up on some stuff that I had put behind through this case yesterday and this morning, and I had a few errands to do, and Kimberly's out, Rich is out. Cool Ranch Dorito. I love your name, and I love Cool Ranch Doritos. They are both out, Ceradon. They lowered their bond. Rich's was lowered from 1 million to 10,000 with 10% up. And then Kimmy's was lowered from 750,000 to 5,000, 10%. Yeah. The Justice Warriors in the house. Yeah. I don't know why. Just ignore me. I'm having a hot flash. Y'all, I was hot flashing so bad last night that I was going from room to room wherever I could find a cold bed and just rolling around in it like a pig in a blanket. Flashes are not fun. They both had lowered. Thank you. Okay. Well, I saw Justice in here. There you are. And I'm going to follow you back now. So, coming up here, maybe she'll come on up here, but I guess you guys know what we're talking about tonight. If you don't know this case, Hojan's horses, okay? Joining me on the panel right away is my friend Heather from the Justice Warrior. She is a fantastic private investigator right here in Tennessee. Look how beautiful. Yay! It's good to see
Wow.
you.
Good to see you too. And
Okay.
Carolyn said she's coming. She'll be here in a minute if she's not
Okay.
already.
Okay. So, y'all, Hojan's horses. Now, I know that some of y'all have straggled on in here from the other case that's going on. By the way, I made People Magazine today.
Are you serious? Oh my God, that's awesome.
I've been working on that this morning and I made it. I finally made a print. Oh, Lord, I've been working on that forever, building a relationship with them and they love me.
That is
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you guys. Thank you. So, here, how many people? I have a lot of new ones to me because of the Rebecca Park case. How many people in here know where I live? Like it's not a secret anymore. Like, don't give the Addy, okay? Just give like the townish or the state will be good. Tracy says, me, D-Mac does. Tennessee, that's right. We are here in the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I'm in East Tennessee, and Heather is closer to Nashville. And so we are not, well, yes, right outside the holler. That was Kentucky. I sort of still live in a holler, I guess. But yes, right outside of Knoxville. And one of the things that is known around here is the story of Gary Wayne Sutton. And I have to admit, I've only lived here in the town where it happened for the last 20 years. I had not heard about this until this year. Gary Wayne Sutton is a man on death row in the state of Tennessee, accused of crimes that began on February the 1st, 1992. DMAC has heard of this case. The reason we're having a show tonight and the reason it's so significant to me is 1 year from today, Gary Wayne Sutton is set to die on death row if we cannot get the governor's attention to intervene here. Okay. Hey, Lenore City, what's up? So here we are. I wanted this to be a significant show with a reminder of this date because if you are in the state of Tennessee, we need your help to get the governor's attention. Okay. And I'm sure Heather will tell you all the ways that you can contribute to that and help to get that part done. So what I want to say is people are asking me if I think that he done it. I have my personal opinion, but it is up to you. I'm here to present the evidence to you and the facts of the case, and it is up to you to decide on whether you believe that he is the one that done this. I can tell you I have doubts. There are inconsistent, unqualified medical examiner reports that hits head on with the timeline where he has a solid alibi. The time of death is off to me, and so there were enough holes to me that I felt like I needed to bring this story to you. Let me see if Carolyn's here. That's somebody else. You haven't? Well, the best thing to do is after this show to learn all about this is to Google Gary Wayne Sutton, and I believe there is a website, right, Heather?
There is. It's Justice for Gary Wayne Sutton. .com, I believe. You might want to double check that. Carolyn runs that website. So
Okay.
once she is here, she can tell you all about it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start out this timeline. I'm going to let Heather, take it over, but I kind of want to set this up for you guys so that you understand this story and how it begins. Okay. In February of 1992, the bodies of siblings Tommy Griffin and Connie Branham were discovered in separate locations. Griffin had been pew-pewed, and his sister's body was found in her burned vehicle. Gary and his uncle, James Dillinger, were both convicted of first-degree premeditated unaliving of Griffin and were sentenced to death. Sutton was also convicted for Connie's demise and sentenced to life imprisonment. Dillinger died on death row in 2023. Sutton's convictions have been upheld, but I want you to listen to the reason I feel like he needs a new trial above and beyond anything else. And that is because the medical examiner who testified at his trial was not qualified to do so at the time. Therefore, I feel like his testimony should be thrown out, and I feel like Gary should be able to get a new trial just based on his basic constitutional rights. And we've not even got into everything that is wrong and off about this story. Okay? So from here, I'm going to let whoever wants to take it over and introduce Gary to the world and explain to them this story.
Carolyn, why don't you tell them about Gary, since you know Gary better than I do?
Okay. So Gary Sutton, he was what? So I'm on TikTok, so I have to be careful for the words I say. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Gary was accused of unaliving his best friend and his sister back in 1992. I'm here to tell you, he did not do it. I was his alibi. I was with him the complete weekend, the whole weekend. Gary didn't do this. So there's a lot of discrepancies. There was a lot of misleading. There was a lot of just not telling the truth. The timeline was not correct. They had to bring in a disgraced medical examiner to give them their timeline. We have witnesses that they say that they have their words were misinterpreted. But Gary has maintained his innocence he's been on the road for 35 years. 35 years he's maintained his innocence. 35 years he's not been in any trouble. 35 years that they took his life, and they had other suspects that they didn't try to look into. So I was with Gary when all this happened, went through the trials with him, was with him for about 5 years after he got incarcerated, and then I just had to go my own way. I lost contact with him and his family for about 26 years. So when I came back into this 5 years ago, it's because I seen on the news where he had an execution date then, and I couldn't let it happen. So I had to do anything and everything that I could do. So I spoke to some lawyers out of Tennessee because I just didn't want to talk to anybody in Tennessee because I just felt like they all worked together to put him where he's at. And nobody was going to help me, and nobody was going to take into consideration what had went wrong. So that lawyer told me that at this point we had to have new evidence. That's what we had to have. So I found Heather, and I hired Heather, and she came in, and Heather got the new evidence that I feel like that we needed, but his public defender didn't want to have anything to do with Heather, didn't want to hear what Heather had to say. She kicked Heather out of the office when I thought I was doing the right thing and taking Heather with us to speak with her about what she had found. She blocked Heather. I think Heather got to go see Gary one time. And then after that, she was not allowed into the prison anymore because the lawyer blocked her, saying that she was not part of the legal team. She was part of the legal team. She was our legal team, but that didn't matter. So that's where Heather came in. Heather is the one that has found the things that they need to look at, besides all the other discrepancies that we had in court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Man.
so I guess this is where I come in. This really wasn't a difficult case. I wish I could say, it was all because of my superb skills and whatever, but it really wasn't. It was too easy. I mean, it was a matter of just going and knocking on some doors, talking to the key witnesses. I know you mentioned the medical examiner. That's the most obvious. That's the biggest thing. That's the low hanging fruit. I mean,
Right.
that in and of itself should be enough reason for them to look at this case. But I guess it's not, because they brought it up in the appeal, right, Carolyn?
Barely.
Okay.
Barely.
I mean, these things that have been brought up, and they just still haven't, made the moves. They haven't reviewed the case, and it doesn't make any sense. But I feel like, okay, so we've got the disgraced medical examiner. That's the biggest thing. But then, then I come into the picture and I start knocking on doors, and the very first key witness that I went to talk to was it's Barbara Gordon, right? It's Gordon, right, Carolyn?
Yes, Barbara Gordon.
Barbara Gordon. When I went to Barbara Gordon, she told me, I mean, the first words out of her mouth were that she had lost sleep, worrying that her testimony played a part in Gary's fate. She did not feel good about that. She said that the state put her statement forth as that she was certain that the white truck was what she saw fleeing the crime scene that day, specifically James Dillinger's white truck. And I think we're kind of getting ahead because people probably don't know what we're talking about right now. But James Dillinger was Gary Sutton's co-defendant and his uncle. And his white truck is what they said they saw fleeing the scene. That was the crime scene of Tommy Griffin's crime scene, right, Carolyn? Am I getting this? This is a lot. No. So
that was
From Connie's.
That was from Connie's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a lot to remember, and I work other cases, so I apologize.
No, oh God, I've got like 25 right now in my head. It's hard to keep up with all the details.
Right.
But let's start on that night. They went to a bar.
Yeah.
Tommy
And
Go
Gary
ahead.
went to the bar that night. At the bar, they got into an altercation with a couple men that we only know as Chief and Cowboy. There was testimony about that. When they left, here's where the discrepancy really comes in, is that they say that Gary and James were the last to see Tommy alive that night, and that is just simply not true. They left. Tommy ends up getting picked up on the side of the road for public intoxication. When he gets picked up on the side of the road, the officer notes that there are two older gentlemen in a black truck with him. I believe they were sitting on the back of the tailgate on the side of the road. Am I right in saying that, Carolyn?
Tommy was on their tailgate.
Right. And so Tommy gets arrested, and the officer notes that Tommy seemed like he was scared, that he would not say what he was scared of. I guess he tried to inquire, what happened, whatever, and Tommy would not say a word. So they take him to the drunk tank. They put him in jail. It is never, there's two problems here already. One, they never identified who Chief and Cowboy was, or at least if they did, it was never part of court record. Two, they don't identify who the two older gentlemen that were with Tommy when he was arrested were. So Tommy goes to the drunk tank, and Gary, I'm skipping over some stuff. There's a whole thing about, Tommy's trailer catching on fire, being lit on fire, and then they go to pick up Tommy, and Tommy ends up leaving with a woman in a black boxy vehicle. And that actually plays into a very important point that I want to make that came out from my investigation, was that when I went and spoke with one of the key witnesses, a guy named Jason McDonald, they had him on the stand to, I guess, establish a timeline because he heard gunshots. And he told me that he saw a black boxy vehicle fleeing the crime scene. But they omitted that from his testimony. And for good reason, because if he had gotten that in, if they had included that, it would have validated what Gary and James had been telling law enforcement all along, and that's that Tommy didn't leave with them. Yes, they bonded him out, but he left with a woman in a black boxy vehicle, what they thought was a Ford Falcon, what I determined later may have been a Ford Fairlane. And I realized we got that from Jason McDonald, who, when I started showing him pictures of vehicles, he actually ended up giving me an affidavit saying that the black Ford Fairlane matched the vehicle that he saw fleeing the crime scene that night.
So this is a Friday night, from what I recall. I'm going to want to make sure I got my dates right here, that this happened, that they went to the bar February of 92.
The 21st of 92 on a Friday night.
Yes. So explain this timeline, because he wasn't found until Monday.
Monday afternoon. He was found Monday afternoon, February the 24th. For the state to be able to arrest Gary and his uncle for it, Tommy had to be unalived on Friday night. That's the only time that they could put them with Tommy, was that Friday night. And when they left the bar, they stopped. I don't know if you remember this or not, Heather, but when they left the bar, they stopped at a convenience store to get more beer. And that's where Tommy first left with this girl, was from the convenience store. They asked for them to get the footage from the store back then, but of course they had already taped over it. So there was that. They didn't have that there. Then when we went back, that's when everything else happened. And then Tommy's family, we found out where Tommy was at, and that's when they called and asked them to go pick them up, to go bond Tommy out, because it wasn't nothing. I mean, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary, because Tommy got put in jail all the time for public drunkenness, because that's just what he did. So it wasn't anything for them to just go bail him out and be done with it. So they went, and when they came out of the jail that night, after they bailed him out, he left again with that girl. Nobody knows who this girl was. They didn't even try to find out who this girl was. So that's where they want to say that they were seen with Tommy last. And that's where they want the timeline to be, on a Friday night, that Tommy was unalived. Tommy was found Monday evening in full rigor mortis. So this is where the discrepancy comes, because their own state medical examiners said that he could not have been unalived either late Sunday night or early Monday morning. No further out. That was their own medical examiner. Then they went to another medical examiner, same thing, no more than 36 hours. Dr. Bill Bass of the UT Medical Farm, he even said rigor mortis is no more 24 to 36 hours. There was another one. He was a entomologist. He was a bug man, what they called the bug man, that could look at the body and see if goosebumps. He said he had rigor mortis goosebumps. He had no larvae or no bugs that he should have had being there from Friday until Monday. So that's where Charles Harlan came in at last minute, and they had the jury think how great of a medical examiner he was. But we weren't told, and neither was the jurors, that he was under investigation because of all the other false autopsy reports that he gave. So Charles Harlan is adamant that rigor mortis can last over 3 days, which is scientifically impossible that it can. So that's the timeline. He had to be unalived on a Friday night. Charles Harlan gave him the false report, and that's what the jury, that was the last thing that came in, and we had no time or no money to have a rebuttal witness or even have anybody come in to say, no, that's not right. So that's where Charles Harlan came in.
Man, oh man. Charles Harlan, he's passed on now. But he had an interview or two regarding this and acted like he did nothing wrong. Really stood his
He didn't
ground
remember it.
this whole time.
He didn't remember it. He couldn't remember the case. So, because he said he did like 10 autopsies a day. He never looked at the body. He never saw the body. He said
That's right. Oh
right.
Gosh.
He said,
tell them about that.
Yeah. He said that he determined the time of death on a slide. On a slide. So from Nashville Airport to Blank County to the Knoxville Airport, he looked at the slide and determined the time of death.
I'm mind blown just on the medical examiner, and we've not even touched a small percentage of what they have found out on this case. I can't even get past him. I don't understand why they won't base a new trial on that.
Right. His public defenders, I'm just going to say Heather knows how she never did anything. She tipped on just enough in his appeal, maybe a sentence of something that they could have overturned it with. She touched on it just enough, but she didn't go deep enough into it for them to look at it. So in the court's eyes, that has already been brought to their attention, and you can't bring it back up.
That's not fair. 1 year from today, do you think that by then we're going to get the governor's attention? Do you think that he's going to listen? Only is it now at the point where only he can issue a stay in order to relook at anything? What can we do there?
At this point, it's the governor, right, Heather?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to Governor Lee, just getting him to sit down and listen to us. He's the one that has the power to exonerate him or, order a review, whatever it is that he does.
Take us through. We're now on Monday. Tommy has been found. What happens next? What happened to Connie and the circumstances surrounding that?
All right, so Saturday when Tommy Hatton came home, she came and asked she asked James and Gary if they would go with her out to the bar and around where Tommy had been that day and take his picture and see if anybody has saw him, because then at this point we all were getting worried because nobody had heard from Tommy. So they went with her, and again, they were said to have been the last ones to see her alive. But when they went back to the store, and this is where one of the witnesses was, and Heather talked to him. He was the guy that owned the store where she parked her car. They tried to say that he saw her get in the truck with them, but he will tell you to this day, and Heather can talk about that. He did not see her get in the vehicle with them, and he could not identify any man that was there with him. When they took her and dropped her back off at her vehicle, she told them that she had one more place to go where she thought Tommy might be, but they could not go with her. And they told her, they did tell her, you need to come on back. We'll start fresh tomorrow. But she didn't. When they left, she went one way, they went the other. They came on back, and we don't know where she went. Then she was missing. Then we couldn't find her. So in the meantime, this was on a Saturday. So Sunday came, and then Monday, I think it was Monday, they found Tommy on that Monday. That Monday afternoon, they found him. So then of course we were like, where's Connie? They found Tommy unalived. Where is Connie? So Gary and his uncle took it up on themselves to go to the police department and talk to detectives, talk to law enforcement, and told them all these events, or they would have never known or never had a timeline because they would have not known anything. Gary and his uncle went there, told them what they did on Friday, told them what they did on Saturday. What can we do to help you find them? This is where we went. This is what we done. And they didn't go to the police department once. They went twice to try to help. And all along, they were building a case against them. And they went nowhere else. They had other suspects that I didn't know at the time, and I don't even think they brought it in court. That's where some of Heather's new evidence is that she found. And so from then on out, it was like we couldn't even think about Tommy or Connie because we went straight into fight mode with Gary.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where Heather comes in, if she wants to talk about she found if you want to talk about Lester Johnson, if you're ready to go to what Heather found. I mean, that was what happened that weekend. And from that weekend and from that day that they arrested him, it went downhill from then. It was all a mess.
Right. Tell us about Lester Johnson.
Okay. Well, it kind of goes back to where I was starting to talk about Barbara Gordon. And Barbara, when I went to talk to her, and she told me that she wasn't certain that white truck that she saw that day fleeing the scene belonged to James Dillinger, if it was his Dodge Ram or not, and they put it forth like it was. Well, when we start looking at Lester Johnson, which Lester was on the radar back then. And there was this, I mean, I can go into the motive, which there is a motive there, actually. Lester Johnson's cousin, Michael Vaughn, had been brutally attacked. His throat was, and he was run over and left to die in the middle of the road. And the motive, what we believe as the alternate theory, is that Lester Johnson set out to seek revenge for his cousin. And one thing we've never quite figured out how exactly Connie and Tommy tied into it, but they had to have tied into it somehow, because we also know that they were subpoenaed to testify at the next case that's tied to this, because when Lester Johnson went out to vindicate his cousin, he approached a woman named Tina, who they were at a motorcycle convention, and Lester Johnson approaches Tina and wants to know who all was involved in what happened to his cousin. And then he does the same thing to Tina that was done to his cousin. His cousin survived, but he was a paraplegic afterwards. And so that's what we believe. That's what the alternate theory is. That's the alternate suspect theory, that that is why Lester Johnson did what he did. But he coincidentally also drove a white truck. And so when I went to talk to Barbara Gordon, and she said she wasn't sure whether that was the white truck or not. Well, the first time I talked to her, I had not been able to verify yet whether Lester Johnson drove a white truck or not. We knew he drove a Dodge because I did run his DMV, but the color of the vehicle was not coming up in those records. So it's really just kind of everything just kind of fell into place, because then later down the road, when James Dillinger passed away, I was able to go meet with his legal team at the Nashville Public Defender's Office. And when I sat down with their investigator and she gave me some information, she ends up giving me the name of somebody that she wanted me to go talk to, who she had been planning to go talk to had Lester Johnson not passed away. So I went to talk to this man, and he ends up giving me a declaration, a sworn declaration, stating that he knew that the Dodge truck, it was a Dodge D100, that Lester Johnson was driving at that time, was actually white. So I went back to Barbara Gordon. I brought the picture. It was a factory. It wasn't like the picture of the actual truck, but like a factory picture of the same year, make, and model, same color, all that. And I said, and I held it up next to James Dillinger, the Dodge Ram. Held both these trucks up, pictures of these trucks up side by side, and said, "Can you tell me which truck it was that you saw?" And she said, "No, I cannot." So Lester Johnson was a vile man, really sadistic, violent, scary individual, actually.
Yeah.
He was, while he was in jail for doing this to Tina, he was issuing threats through his son. And his son is now also, he offed himself. So his son is gone. But before that happened, his son actually provided a statement to James Dillinger's legal team. And I believe he had also given them copies of letters that were passed to him by his dad while he was in jail. So Lester Johnson was threatening witnesses, even threatened the prosecuting attorney in that case, General Clapsaddle. That from General Clapsaddle also gave a statement, and I believe I'm paraphrasing, but she said something along the lines of that he was the most dangerous criminal she had ever tried. Because she had to have detail, like she had been threatened, her life had been threatened as the prosecutor. Lester Johnson issued threats to witnesses, and just all through his son, who later provided that statement. Well, the witnesses didn't end up showing up to testify for him. Obviously, they're scared to death, and he ends up just walking from the charges. The day that he is released, and this is also, see, a lot of this comes from James Dillinger's legal team, work that they had already done prior to his death, and then I was able to get a lot of that from them after he passed away. But they also had a statement from Lester Johnson's girlfriend at the time, and she stated that she picked Lester up from the jail or whatever when they released him, when he was let off of the charges for doing what he did to Tina. She picked him up, and it's on the same day that Tommy Griffin goes missing, and she drops him off in Sevier County before sundown. He had motive, he had opportunity, and coincidentally enough, according to his girlfriend, she drops him off. It's the same day that Tommy goes missing, that Friday.
See, what I'm saying, folks, is that you have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. There's too many holes for doubt. just based on that alone, because the possibilities are endless as to who else it could be, Lester Johnson or whoever else had it out for Tommy Griffin. But it's not going to be two of his buddies that just bailed him out of jail. Why would they spend money bailing him out of jail? You know, that don't make any sense to me. The timeline's off. The time of death's off. Um,
I mean,
Other people had more motive and more reason to.
even if you took the alternate theory, the alternate suspect off the table, you've got two witnesses, two key witnesses who are essentially retracting their statement. One saying that, an important part of their testimony was omitted, and the other saying that, just essentially retracting the whole thing. So you take two key witnesses off the table, then you throw in Dr. Harlan's, uh, erroneous testimony. We shouldn't even need the alternate theory or the alternate suspect, because that alone is more than enough. It should be.
Someone is in the comments saying there were two casings at the scene side by side, looking like they were placed there.
That's correct. Yes.
Boy, do we have experience looking at casings when it comes to the Micah Miller case, where they land, not typically side by side. What do you think about that?
Sorry, I was trying to read something somebody said to me, and I think that, I think it's very suspicious. And, as Carolyn, I feel like she was talking. I could see her lips moving, and I didn't.
Sorry, I had my microphone off because the dog started barking. But yeah, I was saying, Heather, tell them about the shell casings, because we didn't even know about those until you started talking to people.
Right. So yeah. Well, we know, and I think we should preface talking about the shell casings with the fact that prior to the shell casings, you had this search and seizure of James Dillinger's home that was based on a lie, which came out at court on the stand. Steph, I've said this so many times, but the best way to sum up this case is it's not a question of what is wrong with this case, it's a question of what is right. It would take a lot less time for us to lay out what actually was right, because I'm not sure anything was right about this case.
Yeah.
But they, even at trial on the stand, this TBI agent and lead detective are both called out in open court for, on the stand for lying. They lied about having witnesses in order to get the search warrant and the arrest warrants. And that's how they were able to even get onto James Dillinger's property. So then they go there and they collect shell casings and a shotgun. They collect various items from his trailer. And then after they do the search, they go back to the crime scene 3 days after the body is found. And all of a sudden, there's shell casings found that they supposedly missed at the crime scene that match the ones at James Dillinger's trailer. Again, after they've already done a search of the home. But it's funny because I really can't even remember who it was that pointed out the shell casings were laying side by side. But I do know that when we went to, when I had my meeting with the Senator Paige Wally, and some of the state reps, T.R. Williams, and honestly, I can't remember all their names, but, I showed them the picture, and I didn't even have to say anything. Like, they noticed it without me even pointing it out, because they're all hunters. They all know that when the shell casings eject from the shotgun, they don't just go bloop and land side by side. That's not what happens. They fly, and they go in different directions. So the fact that when they went back to the crime scene, and it's in the crime scene photo, all of a sudden it just looks like somebody just slipped them, just dropped them,
Have you seen the pictures? Yes. Crime scene and photos, and you've looked at all of that? They're talking in the comments. Something caught my eye, and I wanted to ask you about this. A juror was a neighbor?
Um, so we don't have proof of it, but back when the trial was going on, it was said, we can't find it now in the transcripts because some of these transcripts were stolen. Some of these transcripts were taken out. But there was a juror that had came and told the judge that there was another juror back in the room talking about she was neighbors with one of the detectives. They had been talking about this trial, or this talking about this for a year now, and she knew that they were guilty and that she wasn't going to listen to anything else. So that was something that happened during the trial, but I can't find anything now to prove that because it's just simply not in the transcripts. And then that's where Heather, when she went and talked to some of the jurors, one of the jurors, and she has the affidavit, and Heather, you spoke to him. You can say exactly what he said, but he was friends with the detective. He went to the academy with them. He worked there for 10 years, so he knew him. And he thought that he was an upstanding guy, and Heather can tell you about that. That's one of the I feel like should have been as new evidence because they messed with the jury and tampered with the jurors. And
Jury tainting.
Heather talked to most of them, and they just didn't believe that the young boy did it. And that is something else somebody asked. If Gary had been tried by himself, they would have never been a trial. They had nothing on him. And the DA got up in open court and said, we cannot separate them. If we do, we will have to send Sutton home. We simply have no evidence on him.
So essentially, he was guilty by association.
Guilty by association.
Noy says, so they just wanted to solve this case and Gary was an easy target for them.
Yes. Because what people need to understand too, Gary was 27 years old. He was rowdy, but he never got into big time trouble, anything like that. So we kept saying, it'll be okay. Once they see what happened and they know you didn't do anything, you'll be home. We thought that. We knew that. We know that was going to happen when we went to trial. They had nothing on him. We were coming home. There were several things that happened where they tried to get an acquittal. I mean, that was just blowing in the wind because there was nobody going to listen to us. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about what the lawyers had to say for Gary. So we always thought he was coming home. And then so we went through the Sevier County trial. And again, their motive for Sevier County, the only thing they had, and the only thing that was the motive, is that they unalived Connie to cover up Tommy when we hadn't even went to trial for Tommy yet. By it making sense, we should have went to trial for Tommy first. But they couldn't because they simply had nothing. So a year sitting in the county jail. So I guess they had to get everything together. We went to court in Sevier County for Connie. Motive was to unalive Tommy. They got a life sentence there. 4 years later, we go to Blount County. They got to ask for them to go to the row because they had a prior conviction. That's the only reason they got anything. So when you went to that Blount County trial, there was not hardly anything on Tommy. It was Tommy here and Tommy there. They brought Sevier County like they repeated it again in Blount County. And they were not supposed to do that. They were not supposed to bring anything of Sevier County into Blount County. They brought everything of Sevier County into Blount County, and the judge let it go. The judge let it go by. Well, they need that. The state needs this. The state has to have this. And so it was like we were reliving the Sevier County trial again. So they never really done anything about Tommy because I don't know what they were doing. They wasn't doing things right, for sure.
Somebody's in the comments saying, I have some connections federally and can run this case across his desk to see. I'm not sure what that's about, but we'll take any connections we can get in order to get the governor's attention.
No, you're allowed to speak. Yeah, I'm sorry. They want to know anybody's allowed to talk about this as long as you do the facts and everything that we talk about. We have the facts. Yes, we need anybody and everybody to talk about this. We need his story out. Here, you said you've lived there how long, Steph? 20 something years.
21 years.
And you knew nothing about this case.
Nothing.
It was big time back then, but we didn't have media. But the local newspapers, they ran it the state side, what the state wanted in the paper. Gary's never had his story out. He's never got to defend himself.
Mm-hmm. Dora says she's making a post now tagging all media. That's, I mean, how else do you, I mean, unless you fly a banner over the governor's house saying, hey, pay attention to us. I don't see how any other way other than doing these shows and continuing to keep it in the media and keep people talking about it. Doris says, let's wake them up. It's just because there's so many. I know that if I was Gary Wayne Sutton and I had 1 year left and I had been screaming to the top of my lungs for the last 30 plus years, I did not do this. I just got the chillies. Then he's going to need all of us to help him be that voice, to say, give me another trial. I'm not even going to say, send me to the house. I'm going to say, give me a fair trial here. It wasn't fair from the start.
Correct. That's right. And he had to say, he never had the jury of his peers. That's another thing, that every time we do a press conference, a news release, and they have to go get a statement from the DA, which he was a baby back then. He doesn't know this case. He always says he had 2 juries of his peers. He did not have the jury of his peers. He didn't have the jury to himself. He didn't get to sit down and go to trial, sit down and say, okay, this is Gary Wayne Sutton's case. Nobody else beside of him, just him. And he's never had that. And that's what it aggravates me so bad when you hear he had 2 juries of his peers. No, he did not. Not to mention that his public defender just messed away his appeal, and there wasn't once but twice she just let it fall through the cracks. He could have got a new trial, but she didn't. She let it fall through the cracks. She had 90 days to respond to it. She did not, and the courts threw it out.
So many holes and mistakes. And just think about if this was you. I mean, what if you're accused one day? Don't you want to make sure that all of your legal avenues have been justly sought after and not just parts of them here and there and whatever's convenient for the state? I mean, I don't want that to happen to me, you know. He accused of the best thing to do is to Google. We can't start over, but the best thing to do is Google Gary Wayne Sutton. It's a very layered, tragic. It don't have to be completely tragic. I believe that we have the ability to save a man's life here, as long as we keep talking about it.
Yep. Somebody said, talk about the jury mess. Heather knows that mess. She talked to every one of them that was still alive.
Yeah, most of them, well, I actually ended up getting an affidavit from one of them, or actually, I'm sorry, 2 of them. But from what I could understand, you know, there's this sweet old lady, Edna. I think her name was Edna, right? Is it Edna?
Was.
Yeah. She just hated it that Gary, you know, I think it you know, not so much James, but just a lot of them felt like Gary shouldn't have Like, even if there was some question about James, like, just there was no evidence on Gary, but they couldn't separate it. It was like you had to convict one of them, or both of them, or none of them. You know. So, yeah, and
You got an affidavit from the one juror. She said that she didn't want to sign it, but they pretty much pressured her into it, and she was the last to sign. But she also said that every time she asked a question, the foreman there from the very beginning, she said he came in. He said even before trial started, they're guilty, and we know they're guilty. So we're just, so the whole time she said when she would try to ask a question that they would shut her down.
right. And did you already tell him, Carolyn, about how they got the expert jury picker, and then they didn't get?
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I mean,
No, I forgot about that. So when we went to Blount County, so the two lawyers that were put on his case, they asked the judge to be taken off of it because they had never had to try this type of case and they didn't know how. The judge said no, they were going to stay on it, and that's the way it was. And so the next thing is they said, well, we do not even know how to pick a jury for this type of case. And he said, well, we're going to give y'all a jury picker. So they did. They gave us a professional jury picker, and she was great. So we were days picking a jury. We had 12 jurors and 2 alternates already picked. Good. We thought we had a great jury because there was just a few of them on there said, you're going to have to show us direct evidence without a doubt before we can even thinking about the send them to the row. So we went to recess, which we only thought we would go for a couple hours, which turned into a couple days. And when we came back to court, the judge said, I have some bad news. We had to send that jury home. I don't know why they sent that jury home. I can't, and I don't know what their reasoning was. So, and then he said, and we have some more bad news. You're not going to have your jury picker this time. And so the lawyers was like, we can't and pick a jury. Like, we need to pick one. And the judge told them that you all were with her long enough that you should know how to pick a jury now. So here we are. We had to start all over. We started picking the jury. Well, the judge decided that they were taking too long to pick the jury. So he said, I'm going to pick the jury for you because we've already been here so many days and we're only on jury number 3, maybe 4 it was. And so they figured they were taking too long. So the judge picked the jury. He said that if y'all have any questions, you can ask it, but the judge picked the jury. And when you read the DVR, or whatever it is about the jury, these people don't know what they were on a jury for. They don't know what they were facing. They just didn't understand what they were doing. And so
Right.
then I think it was all, in my opinion, it's because they had to plant the jurors on there that they knew we're gonna make sure that it came back with guilty plea, with not guilty plea, but
Jeez,
with a
man.
guilty verdict. And even after the Charles Harlan was the very last person on the stand, and even after we came out, first when we came out of the courtroom before they popped Charles Harlan on us, we knew he was coming home. They had nothing. There was nothing that they could convict him of until they put Charles Harlan on the stand and he gave all his false whatever. So even after they got sent to the row, got that verdict, they came back and asked if you will go ahead and plead guilty, we will knock it off of that and down to life. Gary said no, absolutely not. I am not going to plead guilty for something I did not do. I did not kill my best friend. If he had took that plea, he would be home now because he would have done that life sentence. So
He didn't want to be held responsible for something he felt that he did not do. or
Mm-mm.
he knows he didn't
No.
do, but
And to this day, he will, I mean, till this day, I mean, 35 years in prison. And if you, I feel like, and I've been around the prison system long enough that if you're in prison, eventually you're going to quit saying I'm innocent because you're just going to stop doing it. Gary has never stopped. He has never he's always maintained his innocence. He maintained his innocence from day 1 and he still maintains his innocence today. Heather met Gary. I know when she was going to see him, and you have to admit, Heather, you were scared to death to go into a maximum security prison. And like I was, she was scared, and I told her, I said, just don't make eye contact with them. Just get through because it's a process. It's a process to get back to
You're not
Unit
talking.
2. It
Clarify that because it sounded like you're talking about Gary. No, when she said don't make eye contact with him, you're not talking about Gary. Gary
no,
is
no. I meant the guards. Don't make eye
the
contact with them.
guards.
Just get yourself in and get where you're going. Do not make eye contact with them so they can say, "Oh, wait a minute, you've got an earring on that you're not supposed to have, or your eyeshadow's too dark, or your hair's out of place."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, Gary though, he is just sweet, soft spoken. I mean, he's respectful. I mean, he's just there's nothing scary about that man. Nothing.
No.
Does he have children?
Somebody said, "Did you say he was with you that night?" Yes, I was with Gary the whole weekend, not just that night. And then the weekend that whole weekend, and it was his birthday weekend. So the Sunday that they were supposed to see Gary, which they never identified him, me and Gary was over in Knoxville, and they would not go and verify that's where we were because the state wanted Gary with his uncle all weekend, not left his side 1 minute. But he did because we were somewhere else for a whole night and day. I mean, and then they try to tell you Gary lived with his uncle. No, he did not. We did not live there. Gary had a place out in Kodak. That's where we lived, 45 minutes away from his uncle. But the state had to have it that way, and that's where and I don't care to say it, that's where the TBI agent came in and said that he had that 6-page statement from Gary that Gary said he was absolutely with his uncle all weekend and didn't leave his side. Never said that, never happened. And it was a forged statement. Gary didn't sign his name on it, but he forged another detective's name on it because they brought that detective in behind him. And the judge told him, he said, don't even try to tell us that you signed the statement because we know that you didn't. But were you in when Gary gave the statement? He goes, no, I was not. He said, I remember that he went across the street and wrote down what he said that Sutton said. And the judge even looked at the TBI agents and said, you say you were sitting across the table from him. Why didn't you just push that piece of paper over there and let Mr. Sutton sign it? Never did. And they also want to know why they didn't record his statement. His statement was never recorded either.
I need to respond here, guys, live because somebody says, let's see, April Marie _21 says she said she didn't pick him up. Some girl did. He just gave the money to get him out. That's incorrect. I'm sorry. I think you might have misunderstood that statement. They did go to pick him up, and they went in person and paid, and then he left with this other girl.
With the girl, yes.
Right. So I just want to make sure we're not, getting confused about the facts. So that's important.
We've already got everybody confused. There's no doubt in my mind that everybody is not confused because I was there, I lived it, and I still get confused because the way everything weaves and winds in with each other.
They're asking if you could verify the timeline for Friday night. I guess when the night started versus, I guess I would want to know the first
Um,
moment when it started. What time did they get to the bar versus the last moment that Gary says that he saw Tommy that night?
okay, so Gary was with Tommy Friday morning. He went to Tommy's, they did, hang out, drove the back roads, drinking everything. His uncle came over and said, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" So he included himself with everything. But they went to several bars that day. But they ended up where everything started was over at Howie's Hideaway. They the barmaids there and everything said that they left at 7 o'clock. He didn't leave at 7 o'clock because he was already back in Sevierville by no later than 8 o'clock when he picked me up. So there's no way they left that bar at 7. So they say when they left the bar that they seen them on Alcoa Highway in an altercation at 7-Eleven, because that's when the 911 calls and stuff came in. That is what was said. But what happened is they left the bar, they stopped by the store to get more beer because they were coming back. And that's when Tommy left with the girl. They did not see him anymore after that. So they came on back. They picked me up at Gary's brother's house. They got there no later. I know it was 7:30, but I'm going to say no later than 7:45. You can't get from Alcoa Highway to Eagle Holler Road in that short of time. You can't. So then Tommy's trailer caught on fire around 9 o'clock or so. We found Tommy where he was at. They went over about 9:30 to get him, but they told him they had to come back because he had to stay so amount of hours. 11:30, they ended up going back and getting Tommy, bailed him out, came out of the jail, and there was the girl that Tommy left with again. Well, Gary was back. They were back to pick us up because we went over to Huddle House to eat because it was a new place that had opened in Pigeon Forge. So we was at the Huddle House. That's where we had a witness that saw us there, but we didn't know it. Heather, you found that's where that Tina said that she had went to them and told them that she saw us at the Huddle House at the time that they're saying that Gary and James is over here unaliving Tommy, but yet we're at the Huddle House, and we didn't know that we had a witness that could verify that. So she wasn't even a part of the trial, but she actually said that she had went and told them. And what did they do? Heather tell her to get out of their office?
I don't know. I know that they weren't taking anything she said seriously.
Right.
But hey, Carolyn, somebody's asking why you didn't testify, and I'm gonna let you answer that because I know
I
you
did testify. I testified. I absolutely did. And first they tried to discredit me. They tried to make me, they asked me why we were over in a motel room then. Why not? We were dating. We were young. I was 24. He was 27. But then, like I said, I was 24 years old, scared to death. So I just answered my questions. I didn't go on into anything else. And when they asked me that stuff, I'd go, we just were. I mean, if I'd known then when I know now, I would have said, well, what do you think we were doing at the motel room? But I was young. I didn't know that. And when they took me and questioned me, they told me, they said, we need you to tell us that you this, or we needed you that. And I'm like, I can't tell you that because that's not what happened. So they threatened me that they were going to take my kids away from me if I didn't tell them what they wanted to know. So of course they had me scared to death. So when my brother said, he goes, well, what you need to do is you need to sign Sierra over to us and sign Devin over to mom and dad. And then they put that off the table. So that's what I did. So then when they take me back in, they say, we're going to take your kids away from you. And I'm like, I don't have custody of my kids, which that made them mad. So then they left me alone. But yes, I did testify. I got up on the stand. I testified. I told him what we did that weekend, where we were at. And it wasn't just me. He had his brother, his sister-in-law, his stepsister. He had a couple of friends that had came by and saw him on that Sunday when they tried to say that they were over where Connie had been found. They weren't there that day because they were with me. They had alibi after alibi. So yeah, I did. I got up and they didn't care what we had to say. They told the jury that we were his friends and we were his family. I was his girlfriend that would do anything for him, and that, of course, we loved him and we would do anything to keep him out of prison.
Mm.
And yes, it was 35 years ago. I had somebody ask me today why nothing's been said on this. It's because he had a lawyer that every time his family would try to do something or even get media coverage on it, she would tell him, no, you can't do that. That will hurt him. And she tried to do that to me when I first came back in about doing talking to the new, doing news segments and stuff. But and I'm just like I said, what can we do now that can possibly hurt him any worse than what he is?
There's nothing to lose. And like you stated, you're talking facts. That's a part of court record. So there's nothing that can hinder him, especially at this point, because 1 year from today, that's all we have. We have 1 year, folks, 12 short months. Yes,
someone
he is, Kim.
asked,
1 year from today is the execution date.
Yes. And that's right. He's literally never had anyone to work for him. I'm telling you right now, when I came back into the picture and there was just nothing, we didn't know what to do. And I got Heather. I'm telling you right now, what Heather came in and she got those lawyers, like Heather said, she wished that she said she could have done digging and stuff and she had to knock on doors. 35 years ago, his lawyers could have done that same thing. And we didn't tell the fact too, after Heather went and talked to these jurors, they went right behind Heather for whatever reason. I don't know, I guess to discourage them, but it just so happened that they trusted Heather and they wanted Heather to know that Gary's lawyer comes back behind them and says, well, what they're trying to do for Gary right now is just too late. If this had been done, what did they say? A few years ago, Heather, how did they say it? If this had been done then maybe something could have happened. Well, why didn't you do that a few years ago?
There's people on that's been on death row right down to the 30 seconds before, and there's been a stay called in. They're just wanting to scare you away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you were saying about how Gary didn't have anybody to fight for him. He wrote me a letter pretty shortly after I started working the case. And I swear I cried so hard just reading this letter. And it's scary. I mean, it's scary for me because it's like, oh my gosh, like this man, nobody's ever fought for him. And he's basically telling me like, thank you so much. Like you're giving me hope. You're finally, somebody is finally trying to help. I mean, Carolyn's trying to help. She's always been trying to help, but somebody else, a private investigator or an attorney, somebody, he's like, you're the first person to actually listen and try to help. And I mean, it was just sad and it was scary at the same time because it's like, oh my God, no pressure. It's a lot, because I don't know. I've said it before. I'm like, if they actually execute him, I might actually have a meltdown, like a full blown meltdown. Like, I don't think, it just, somebody's got to do something. Like this cannot happen. It absolutely cannot happen. And if it does, then I mean, it's like, this is my worst fear. I mean, the thought of, losing your life, sitting in a cage for 3.5 decades and then being executed for something that you didn't do.
Jesus.
I mean, it's literally the worst thought. Like, I can't think of anything scarier than that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I can't either. Does he have children?
He has a daughter. She was one. She just turned one when this happened. And I mean, they have the best relationship that they can have, but she lost her father, and he didn't really get to know his daughter. He has a grandson now. He just turned 13, or he will. Yeah, he's 13. Um, and Gary was an advocate hunter. He loved to hunt. And back in that day, you didn't just see deer walking down the road like we do today. You had to hunt for the deer. So his grandson, misses that. He didn't get to show him how to go hunting, how to do, the things that a grandpa would do with the grandson. So this weekend, he caught his first deer, and he texted me. He said, I need to talk to, his daughter texted me and said, will you please have dad call me? I need to tell him something. She wouldn't tell me, but I kind of thought that that's what it is. But they wouldn't tell anybody, that he caught his, that he got his first deer until they told Gary first.
Gosh. Ah, that's heartbreaking that he has missed out on all this time over something that he didn't do. He's claiming his innocence to the very end here. And like she said, usually they just do give up and just, you know, um, go with it. But to continuously fight for yourself and stand up for yourself and say, I didn't do this. And to watch your family grow up and have their lives right in front of you and not be able to hug them every day, I couldn't imagine.
He just lost his dad last month. 93 years old.
Oh my
And that
God.
was one of the last things his dad said. He goes, are you going to bring my baby boy home? And I'm like, we're trying. I promise you, we're trying. And he didn't get to see that. He passed away. And then, we're at the graveside, and they're like, how is Gary? And I'm like, I said, it hurts him. And he's sad, but he's numb. He's numb to losing anybody out here because he's not been around them for 35 years. So he doesn't get the effect of it because he's not here to see it and to
Mm-hmm.
feel it. So it's, he's lost his mom, he's lost his dad, he's lost grandparents. He's lost a lot of people since he's been locked up.
Where can they go? What can they do?
Um, Right now, call the governor's office. We're going to take a day. I haven't planned it yet for everybody to get together and just call the governor's office until they have to shut the phones down, because that gets them aware of it. I got his number. The number to the governor's office is 615-741-2001. You don't have to talk to anyone. You just call, go to the prompts, and it'll say, if you have a comment, to leave the governor. You can do that. Leave free Gary Wayne Sutton. You need to look into his case. Whatever you want to say, you can email if you'd like, and put whatever you want to do. Because when you email, they will get back to you, and you will know that they got that. Right now, it's just get this story out, try to get the governor to listen, because I believe that once the governor would sit down and take a look at this, I believe he would do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been told by some of the representatives and some of the senators that, is he a good governor? No. Is he a good man? Absolutely. So if we could just get him to sit down and just take the time to look at it. That's what we need. That's absolutely what we need.
Yes. Heather, any final thoughts or things that people may need to know?
Just everybody needs to pitch in, be a voice. The more the merrier. Steph, thank you so much for picking this
Yes.
up. I'm so glad that Carolyn's been able to get with you and a couple of the other creators, and just the more the merrier. We need everybody making noise.
Yes.
Yes.
Sign the
There's
petition.
1,700 souls in this room. It's almost 2,000 people that
Yes.
can make a phone call tomorrow. Imagine them getting 2,000 phone calls tomorrow. That's a wake-up call.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be awesome. Somebody wanted that number again. Again, it's 615-741-2001. And then you can get and look up Governor Lee's information and get his website and whatever else. Just whatever. If you want to handwrite him a letter, send it. Send it. Anything and everything. We've just got to flood his office. They're back in session in January, so I'm hoping that we can go. Maybe Heather, I needed to run this by you. I feel like we need to go do another press conference. If we can get Dennis and all them back on board, and we need to go talk to the representatives and the senators again that we talked to last year. We have people behind us. We have senators and some representatives behind us. It's just them as well getting the governor to sit down and look at this.
Right. Governor Lee is on the Book of Faces. Somebody just called and left a message. Oh, me, they're going to be waking up tomorrow going, who had a show yesterday? And that's exactly what we want.
Yes. Thank you all. Just anytime you have time, if you'll just pick it up and call. Sometimes I call 10 times a day. Sometimes I can just get one call in, but I call. I mean, they know who I am in that Capitol now. Last year, we finally would walk the halls and they'd say, hey girls, y'all are doing a good job. Okay, thanks, but help us, please.
Right. This entire show is going to be on my YT channel. It's the same username and logo. But I'm also going to pull this audio, and it's going to be my next podcast episode. You can listen to my podcast wherever major podcasts are heard. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple. And just today, I was tagged and mentioned in a People magazine article. So you can go to people.com and search for Rebecca K. Park and read. I want you to read all about the latest in the Rebecca K. Park. I plan to fly to Michigan to cover that case when it starts in court. The next time in the morning, I want to let y'all know that I have a doctor's appointment at 10:45, and my normal show time is 10:30. So that's going to be delayed. I shouldn't be home by noon or 1, and then we'll go live and take it from there, okay? We're going to keep talking about this. 1 year from today, he is due to be executed, and we've got to stop it. That's why the significance that I wanted to have. I don't normally have shows on Wednesday night, but I wanted this to be significant. I want this date to etch in your minds. December 3rd. Don't forget it. Literally, we are running out of time and everything that we can do to help. I'm not telling you to claim him innocent. All I'm doing is telling you to give him a fair shot at a fair trial. Okay?
Yes.
There
was someone
forever.
that thank you. There was someone also right quick asked that if they could share on their Facebook. You can share anything, any platform. We need it. I don't care. Just share, and share again.
And everybody in here right now, follow these two accounts because these are who you're going to want to follow. And I'll do updates, but to keep updated all the time for whatever happens, these two accounts are who you're going to want to follow. The Justice Warrior is also on the Book of Faces. You want to make sure you look her up there and follow her there. And it's the same username and logo. Wherever you look, wherever social media platform is invented on the earth, I'm there. Steph's Case Files, YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram. It's all the same username. Newsbreak. It's all the same username and logo so that you can find me super easy. Everywhere. You can also listen to a whole list of my podcasts at scfpodcast.com if you want to go to a simpler place to look at all the podcasts. This is going to be my latest one. I haven't done one in a while, but this one's super important. And I want you to go to that podcast and I want you to share it out to everybody that you know that can get the attention of the governor. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you guys for what you're doing and standing up for those who don't have a voice and for those who still can. I appreciate everything that you guys do. It is what our justice system is made out of. And I believe in constitutional rights, and I believe that the right thing should be done here. And I appreciate everybody supporting them and following them. If you guys want to do another show, all you have to do is send me a message or text me. We'll get it scheduled. I'm here at your disposal, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Carolyn. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys. All right, everybody. I'll see you again in the morning. Well, it's going to be noon tomorrow. Is going to be my next scheduled show time. And then after that, the show that it's coming up that I want to let you know about, Morgan returns from Justice for Bradley Strassner. Guess what? Brad Bradley from Amy Bradley is Missing is coming on the show. Everybody knows the Amy Bradley case in here. Brad Bradley is coming on the show. We're going to talk about Amy. We're going to review all of those facts. So I've got 2 upcoming shows scheduled. Okay. It's going to take some time to get those together, but we are working. I'm working all the time to get new shows scheduled. Of course, we got the Rebecca K. Park case going on. So many things going on. It's up now. People Magazine is up now. Go to people.com, search for Rebecca K. Park, or you can go to Google, search for Rebecca K. Park, and the top people.com story is up. Scroll all the way down, and you're going to see my name there. My friend Chris over at People Magazine, we worked on this morning. There's the honorable mention there. So make sure you go there, read the article, support People Magazine. Chris is a really great guy. We've talked a lot about this case. We've talked a lot about a lot of cases. But I'm so honored and proud to be a part of Rebecca K's legacy to invoke change and rights for fetuses and pregnant mothers and all of that stuff. She's going to change the world. All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I love each and every one of you very much. You're making my dreams come true right before my eyes every single day. We do it. We throw it down every single day, no matter what. And for that, I am forever grateful. We reached 100,000 likes. Make sure you follow me on every social media platform. All you have to do is look for the same username and logo. Make sure you follow me on the Big YT. Okay? I love you. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow.